Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. The boho rainbow has been trending all over the internet for about a year now. So much so that I decided to make this quilt, draw out the templates, share them with you so that you can make this quilt. Besides, I have a baby that this is going to be perfect for. When I asked what the nursery theme was so that I could make this baby a baby quilt, it was boho. Now, I had a different idea in mind when it came to boho, and it wasn't this. Evidently, this is the new modern boho design. Perfect for any baby's nursery just by the flip of some colors. The template link and all info is down below. You know the deal. I am going to start free motion quilting on this right now. I'll meet you at the end for a final reveal. Enough talking already. Let's get busy making this trending rain boho baby quilt. Once you have your templates all cut out and taped together in the right rain boho order, it's time to trace them onto your fabric choice and cut them out. I chose 7 fat quarters. 5 of these fat quarters I did find in a fat quarter bundle at Hobby Lobby. 2 extra ones that I have thrown in is the rose one here with the one with the print, and then the polka dot one I have in a couple different small pieces that were in my stash. So it matched perfectly, so I'm going to use it. Thank you so much to our latest supporters for those coffees and donations, Sharon K, Steph H, and Susanna P. There are 4 bows in our rain boho baby quilt. So we need to choose 4 colors. And we need to keep in mind the hearts and what color we would like them as well. The other colors will be scattered around within the border. So I am going to choose this darker rusty orange color as my center heart and my little hearts all the way around. I think this is going to be the top bow. This is going to be the second bow. I think maybe I will exchange this softer one with the medium one right here. What do you think? Do you like it? And put the light pink in and switch that back. Oh my word. Okay. How about that? Yeah, let's do this. I hope. It's important to note that I did starch all of these fat quarters today, but I will wash this quilt before I gift it to the baby, and I'll wash it in like a draft or a clear Tide or something like that. The reason why I starched is because this is going to be applique on, and I'm not really using any applique product to help it to be stiff so I can sew it on the product. So that's why I needed the fabric to be more stiff. So this light color is going to be number 1. And I am going to cut this way on the selvage. So the selvage is on the sides. I'm going to be cutting the strips this way. That way there will be a little bit of give within that bow as I place it onto the quilt. If you were to do it this way, there's no stretch in this side of the fabric when it's running along with the grain. And so you're not going to be able to move it where you may want to move it to make it more wide or just to get that right shape. So it's better to cut across. Buy fabric from like Joann's or Hobby Lobby or anything like that. This is going to be the cut side that the worker will cut when they're cutting your fabric to sell it to you, if that helps. The first thing is to bend this back to fit this bow. You want to make sure that you cut in a way that you're saving as much fabric as possible for the rest of the quilt. Now, as the bows get bigger, you're not going to be able to care too much, and you want to follow this fold mark along here. Once you get it right where you need it, you're going to pop a pin, keeping that in place. Once you have it where you want it, you're going to then just trace. This is erasable ink with heat. A tip I want to give you on this part, when you go to cut out your templates, there is a line there where the cutoff is at the end of the bow at the bottom part right here. Don't cut that just yet. Cut all the way down to the rest of the paper and leave this tail on here and cut that out as well, because you may need to fudge a little bit here in order to cut that straight across. You're going to need a little bit of excess there, just a tip. Once you have that all traced on, you're going to take that pin out and then re-put that pin right back where you took it out. Unpin and then repin those two layers together. Depending on what's easiest for you, you can use scissors or a rotary cutter. For me, I'm thinking a pair of scissors will get you a more precise cut, only because a rotary cutter sometimes will veer off and you're dealing with curves here, so I don't know. So there's the first bow. So I have all 4 bows all cut out. The one thing you need to know about the bows and measurement, I put 2 pins here, 19.5 inches apart. This edge of the bow here to this edge of the bow. It's before the hearts. So I'm going to take and just put this up here, maybe a little bit higher, I think. And you're going to fudge your bow on your fabric the way that you want it and make sure that it's up to the edge here on 19.5 inches this way. That's that give that I talked about by cutting the bow along the cut edge of the fabric instead of along the grain. And you want to space these about 1/4 inch, a little more maybe apart. I think that looks best. It's easier to put the big bow up first and then work inward with your bows. I did mark on top of the fabric here with little pen marks on where that needed to be cut off. I'm going to save cutting that until I actually get it on my big square piece of white fabric. The next step is to make the little hearts and the big heart that's in the center. This right here takes a little bit of time because you have to use scissors and a very tiny template, but it's easy. You would just line it up here, along here, trace a bunch of them all in a row. To help you with that task, you're just going to fold the fabric over just the amount that you need for your heart. I can come in a little bit because remember, let's save as much fabric as we can. And I think that'll do it. I'm going to put a hot press crease right here so that that stays together while I trace it and then when I cut it. We'll iron it all out once we get it cut, but this is just going to help us so that things don't, get too tweaked. So you're going to need 35 of the baby hearts. Once you get them all traced out, cut them all along just inside the edge. Now with these hearts, I tried to make them not so perfect. What I mean by that is I kind of made a deep cut within that center area, where it goes in like cleavage. And I did that because I thought it would be a lot more whimsical. What we'll do is start there. Oh yeah, I like that because of the contrast with this being so light and then this being so dark, and it catches this right here. So I like the placement. I'm going to get busy cutting these hearts, and I'm going to do my big heart, and then I'll meet you back. So here's what I want to tell you about the spacing of the hearts. There are 35 of them. I want the tip of that heart to be 1/4 inch away from the edge of that bow. And then if I come up here, as far as spacing them, you're going to space tip to tip of heart 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches on the tip and 1/4 inch from the edge of the rainbow. We go to put our bows and our hearts onto our big square piece of white fabric. First thing I'm going to do is add some double-sided, kind of this see-through fusible. I had a bunch of scraps of this and I thought it would be perfect for this project because I want the baby quilt to be as soft as possible and I didn't want any stiff stabilizer in it. So this is super flexible and super thin, and I'm only going to put enough on the back of each of the hearts in order to iron them, to tack them down so that I can sew them. So on these right here, I've already cut strips, just tiny strips of this, just little tiny squares. I don't even know if you can see that. They're so tiny. And I'm placing them on the backs of here. And how I do that is I take a little bit of stick glue, swipe the back, and just put that little tiny piece on there. That, believe it or not, will iron to our quilt and it'll stay until we can get it sewn down. This heart right here, we need a bigger piece on the back than we'd used on the tinier hearts. Let's even do the actual shape of the heart. So there's like an actual shape, and make sure that it doesn't exceed the edges on our applique there. So you can see just rough cut. You don't have to be precise on any of it. And then I'm going to take and put some glue to hold it temporarily. And then that will go in here wherever you want. Remember, I haven't trimmed these bottom ones yet because I want to make sure that I have it right on my actual piece of fabric instead of just my design wall. So you can see here I've cut out thin strips of that same double-sided fusible, and I've cut it out using these templates, and I'm making sure that if this is this one, that it is right in the center of those templates. That ensures that when I go to put it on here, that it's going to fit right on the back, just like we did with the hearts. So we're going to need this as well, so don't forget about this. So here's that top bow, and I'm going to turn it to the back side. This is already too long right here, so I'm going to trim some of that off. And I'm going to grab my glue stick, and then I'm just going to tack this down. This is quite flexible too, like it's on the bias. That's what it feels like. You should have no problem manipulating this fabric a little bit and this double-sided fusible. I think they call it like a webbing almost, but you can use whatever you have. I like to have my edges raw naturally. That's why I don't like to have any fusibles real close up to the edge. It's just my preference. But if you have a method or technique that you use already, use it. So there, that is going to stay on for us until we iron it on our white piece. The piece that we want to end up with is 28 inches by 28 inches square. And I found this really cute white tone on tone, little tiny dot with a circle around it. And I thought it would be really cute for a child's quilt. So that's what I'm going with. This one actually is 28.5 by 28.5. I gave myself an a 1/2 inch room in case I messed up along the way and needed to cut a little bit more. So that's why mine is cut at the 1/2 inch more, but cut yours 28 by 28. First thing to do is find the center of this square piece of fabric. Simply do that by folding in half once, putting a memory crease there, and then fold it again. Open it back up, and you can mark it in the center if you want with a heat erasable pen or whatever marking tool that you have. You found the center by folding your fabric and marking it with a plus right here. You're then going to measure from the center up and down 10 inches here and 10 inches here and mark it. This is the top of your rainbow and this is the bottom of your rainbow. And then from that crease right here that I made, and I put the 10-inch mark there, but I didn't put it on the crease. There, it's on the crease now. So it's right there, the bottom of the rainbow. You're then going to measure out center 19.5 inches and mark it. Because remember, that is the width of the bottom of our rainbow. Not the hearts, the rainbow itself. So now we know that perimeter of that large bow. And we're going to go ahead and just lay it down. So you're going to want to push this all the way to that 19.5. Bring it in and, you know, fuss with it a little bit to get it where it needs to go. It looks like it's rippling too, but give your fabric a little tug to loosen it so that it lays nice and flat. Not a big tug, just a little tug. Because remember, it's not along the selvage where we cut. We cut on the stretchy part. Just so I'm able to see where that line is on the bottom. When I do go to cut and trim, I'm going to make a long line. Remember, you want to stay about 1/4 inch away from the previous bow. Once you get all the pieces on, then it's time to really tweak this top bow, because now we are going to work from the outside in. What you want to make sure to do is get the outside bow perfect. That perfect curve that you want, if you want it to kick out a little bit more, or, you know, however you want. And make sure it touches that top part. Now, if you do get it wrong and iron it on crooked, you can rip this back up. It's very forgiving. But I'm going to take these out because I have the bow that I want. I'm then going to get my portable wool mat and lift it up ever so gently. And I think I'm going to do the center up here first. And then just take your iron and press the top. Come over to the side. And there is the top portion of your bow. Now it's time to get that second bow on. You don't really have to worry about much here on out as far as if it's in the center or not. You just do want to find the center up here where that crease was from the beginning. But you just want to make sure that you're about 1/4 inch away space. And that's really all you have to do, and just make sure that that is lined up in the center. Right it under. And you do have that line along here from where you folded, but it starts to go away because you're ironing in this area now, so you just want to be mindful of that. So you really just want that crease to line up with the crease there, and it should be center. Once you get that, like so, you can then bring in your iron without even fussing with the rest of it. just to get this down initially. Grab the next one and do the same thing. I'm just taking the iron right up to that line so I don't get any of that fusible below the line. I mean, it won't really hurt. It'll come up if you do get it on there, but just in case. Just another precaution. This rainbow quilt is so cute. Oh my goodness. Oh, I think she's gonna love it. So far, so good. Oh my goodness. Oh, so cute. Let's get this heart on here. The line is right here. Put this in half here as far as from here to here. So if I do that and I put a little crease right here, I can see a crease right there where I made. So I found the middle from here to the tip top there. So I'm going to take the middle of my heart, place it right on that. Oh my goodness, is that cute? I hope it's straight. I can't see from my angle really. You see I'm joggling this all around too, and that double-sided fusible, it's not going to let loose of your fabric. That is darling. Next, grab all 35 of those little hearts and do that, and we'll be back after that. I'm not going to show you all that. You know what to do. You know to place them 1.5 inches from bottom tip of heart to the next bottom tip of heart, and stay a 1/4 inch away from that bow, and start down here and go all the way around. So this is what it looks like with all of the hearts on it. Isn't it darling? Oh my word, it's so cute. These aren't going anywhere. These are stuck on there pretty good. So now all I'm going to do is just come along here and follow that line and cut these right off. Oh my word, it is so stinking cute. Oh my goodness. For the border on this quilt, I decided on doing random sizes of 5-inch in width pieces. I kept that in mind because of these weird pieces that I had. So I'm going to go 5 inches up this way, but I'm going to do a minimum of 2.5 inches by 5 inches in width on all of the pieces. So they're going to be 5 inches high and any random width that you want. Just do a bunch of different ones. So this is 5 inches right here. So I know I'm going to be able to get one block out of that. I'm just going to cut it across and get my 5 inches. Now I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to clean up this edge. Then I'm going to turn it this way and see what I have. It looks like I can get about a 3¼ inch cut in width, and that's fine. I wanted to use up as much of the fat quarters as I could and save the rest of the fabric for, you know, some other project. I'm gonna come along here and just clean this edge up. So now I'm going to take from this clean edge 5 inches out. So the highest in width I'm going to go is a 5 by 5 inch square, and everything else in between. So we'll go 5 inches. Let's do 4¼ We're just doing all random. We can do 3½ on this one because that's probably the max that we can get out of this. All you're going to do is lay these out on your design board and find out which ones look good next to each other. I tried not to put 2 greens next to each other and 2 in the pink color just to give it variety. So polka dot one, we can maybe come over here and do that. This one, that's enough contrast maybe that would be okay there. Or you can put a tiny one of that in, and then add that. So you're just going to do all random and connect them in the strip in the length of the sides and the top of your quilt. Here is my placement around my Rain Boho baby quilt. I like the way that it's scrappy. I ended up doing that though because I'm terrible with measurements, so I figure if I just cut them in all different widths, we'll be good to go. We can just cut off the excess. The next step is to sew a strip there and sew a strip there and connect them to the 28-inch square piece of white fabric. This is a perfect example of why I cut my square at 28.5 inches. So after I had everything all on, you know, we have it all together, and I sewed up my sides, my strips, I then went and checked this to make sure how even this was. Now, mind you, I did already cut off, you know, about 1/8 of an inch on this side already. But then I realized after I cut that if you look here, my heart is about 3.25 inches away from the side, that bottom heart. And when I come over here, just a little over 2.5 inches, so that's not good. I already trimmed this side about 1/8 of an inch off already. I need to cut this side over here to match that. And whatever that ends up being, that's going to be my square in the end. So it happens to me all the time. I don't know why, but it just does. So I have to think ahead and make sure that I, you know, anticipate problems. So a little over 2.5 there. So we are going to have to cut, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much extra I have to cut off here. Now mind you, I'm going to have to cut off from the other ends too. Do you see how much we're going to have to cut off? Wow, that's a lot. But if I want it to look even, that's what I'm going to have to do. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to fold this in half. Now I know, remember, I already cut 1/8 over here, so I know that this is a straight cut. I'm going to take the fold and line it up with a line on my mat. I can see that line through the white, so that's good. So I'm going to line that up along with the line I made and then find somewhere on my mat as well. Oh, I can't believe I cut that much off. Wow, I wasn't expecting that, but now it's even. So now we're at 27.5. So that's what we need to cut over here. Hopefully I don't regret that cut. All right, let's take a look. All right, there you have it. 27.5 square. Now I'm totally confident adding my strip. And you may have a little excess, but like I said, I like trimming off rather than not having enough. So I'm going to pin these on and sew a 1/4 inch all the way down, get the other one on, and then I'll show you that progress. So this is what I have so far. I haven't attached the top and the bottom border yet. I wanted you to see what it looked like with just the sides on it. The next thing I'm doing is cutting 5-inch in width strips to again border the entire square. Here I'm just taking some yardage and I'm cutting 5-inch in width strips. Let's get the top border all sewn on, and we are also going to pin it. I will take my seam allowance and press that over right now, and then I will connect the other side, and then we'll work on putting those borders on. Before we get to those white borders, first we need to trim off all of the excess here. So I'm going to add the other side white border piece, give those a hot press over with the seam allowance, trim it, and then add the 2 top pieces. So we are learning a lot today from my mistakes, which is a good thing. So I put on my 2 white side borders, and I then went to pin my other piece here, my other white strip of border, and I realized that, yeah, it was too short. But no worries, because I will take this piece that I cut off when I put the other two white borders on. There was this much to cut off. I have two pieces of these, so that'll work out perfectly. What I'll do is just add them here. I already pinned those, so maybe I can do this without unpinning what I just pinned. I don't know, we'll see. And then I will just cut that selvage off. So it was like 45.5, I think, or something like that. I typically don't like to piece borders, but nobody's really going to care about that. So, yeah. I mean, we think they care, but they don't care. They don't. My baby boho quilt top is all done. Before I sandwich this quilt together, though, I put my free motion quilting foot on, and I'm going to tack down the hearts following like an outline. And I'm also going to do that with the rainbow, just on the inner portion of the outer edges of all of the applique. I've done quite a few already, and I really like how it looks. Now I do start and stop and lift my needle out after each heart, because there's no way to connect to the next heart. That's for later when I do the free motion quilting on the quilt. I'll do some outlining and make it look really pretty. For now, I just need to get these down. The best way to do it for me is to have the quilt top only with no batting and no backing. I've basted my quilt with a Minky dot in the perfect boho color. I sandwiched some wool batting in the middle, and then of course my quilt top. Friends, I almost forgot I bought these really cheap free motion quilting gloves to try, because in all my videos I push the gardening gloves but have never tried free motion quilting gloves. So these were really cheap. I got like 6 pairs for 10 bucks or something like that off of Amazon. I will link them. So far, so good. These are small, but I have a really small hand, so that's, you know, seems fine. It is a little tight around the ends because of whatever that is to grip, but it works. I'm free motion quilting some hearts and some paisleys in this section right here. Let me show you how to make a perfect mitered wraparound Minky Corner. The first thing in this process is to make sure that this backing is totally out of the way. Trust me, you do not want to cut your backing after you just did all this work on this quilt. I'm not going to use my rotary cutter because I'm very afraid of cutting that. So I'm going to hold it up sort of toward the light and then just snip off all of this excess batting. Now I'm only cutting right up to that very edge, but I'm making sure not to cut the backing. Oh, I'm so afraid of cutting it because I can't really see when I'm showing you all, but for my wraparound binding, I'm going to cut 3/4 of an inch all the way around. So all I'm going to do is line up right along here. I'm using the fabric as my guide, not really the batting. It's more so the fabric. And then I'm going to line it up 3/4 of an inch. Would help if I had a longer ruler, right? And then slice. And then continue all the way around. Find the 45-degree mark on your ruler. It's right there. You're going to line that 45-degree line up along one of the side edges of the corner, the outer corner. So I'm going to choose to line it up right here. So I'm lining it up as straight as I can, and I'm going to push it away about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch right in here. Very little, very, very little, almost like more of 1/8. Sometimes I cut right at the corner. So when that is straight, you are going to take your rotary cutter and slice. Take that whole end off. Now you can even cut this little point off if you want. Just very tiny, very tiny. Then you're going to take and flip to the back like this. Fold those back and back together. So the back side. And you're going to line those up right at the cut edge all the way down, nice and straight. You can clip it if you'd like. When I sew my mitered corners on, I always start sewing from this edge right here, that pointy edge, away from that corner, because I want to catch those in there perfectly straight and even, so I don't have to fuss with them later. Back stitch. So it looks like this. You can cut that thread off if you'd like. All you're going to do is, I take my finger, put it in there, push this in, and get a pointy tool if you'd like to help push that out. And then clip the rest of your binding down, and then you're going to sew right along that edge, staying real close, and just tack that all down. It's important to note that Minky does not fray. So once that is tacked down, that's it. You never have to worry about it. It's not going to fray. No worries. When you get to the middle of that seam, you're going to lift up your presser foot and pivot. So I just wanted to take that out real quick and show you what that looks like. Perfectly mitered and soft for a baby. Once you get your wraparound border on, it's important to note that you can take some curved snips and clean the edges up. So you can see here that this looks, you know, jagged from where I put it on. So I'm just going to go through and, being sure not to cut my quilt top, I am just going to snip along, evening out that entire edge all the way around the quilt. Do not try this with regular scissors though. You really need to be using curved snips. I have them linked down below so you can find them easy. And a lint brush is really handy to have during this step. So I turn the light down low so that you could see the back of this quilt. How darling is that? Oh my goodness, I love how this turned out. The back looks just as good as the front. Let me turn it around so you can see it. So here is a shot of this darling baby quilt. Again, I have the low light on so you can see the quilting. Are you loving this rain boho baby quilt? I am too. I hope that you download and print out those templates and that you make this quilt. It is so darling. Look at your screen right now. I have handpicked videos. If you liked today's tutorial, go ahead, click on one of those so we can keep learning together. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.